A lovely evening and thanks for watching Times News. I am Edita Soko. First, the headlines. President Lazarus Chakwera announces a subsidy on maize from ADMAC to cushion people from the economic impact of COVID-19. Industry captains urge authorities to maintain economic policies that will help the country through the second wave of COVID-19. And calls continue for Malawians to be vigilant in the fight against the pandemic. We have these and other news stories. Please do stay with us. And our first news item. President Lazarus Chakwera has announced new measures aimed at lessening the economic burden on Malawians in light of restrictions put in place to curb the spread of COVID-19. Among these is a subsidy on maize sold by ADMAC. Addressing the nation on the state of the COVID-19 pandemic, the president also applauded firms and individuals that have responded to his call for support. This was part of President Chakwera's speech.
The daily average number of COVID-19 deaths was more than double what it was the previous week. COVID-19 deaths in the 7 days between January 10th and 16th were 80. But in the 7 days between January 17th and yesterday, the total was 170. I extend my sincere condolences to those of you whose loved ones are among those we have lost.
And Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Charles Mwansambo, later gave an update on progress made in terms of infrastructural development in response to the pandemic.
An oxygen facility and the electrical connections and backup lighting are also being installed at the treatment center, and would like to thank the Malawi Institute of Engineers for helping with this work. Thirdly, once the main campus work is done, we'll focus on completing the work we've started at the Blantyre Youth Center, as you directed, Your Excellency. So far, one tent and a gen set have been set up at the center, which can accommodate 46 patients. Additionally, the hall at the center is being partitioned to accommodate 20 patients with the support of Medicine Sans Frontiers. I'll now move on to Zambo Central Hospital. A COVID-19 isolation center was established at the hospital.
The Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, MCCCI, has urged the country's monetary authorities to maintain the expansionary monetary policy as the local economy grapples with the impact of the second wave of COVID-19. Daonga Sabola has filed this report read by Elvis Hoahoa.
An expansionary monetary policy is a type of macroeconomic monetary policy that aims to increase the rate of monetary expansion to stimulate the growth of the domestic economy. The economic growth must be supported by additional money supply. In its commentary released on Friday, MCCCI says the expansionary monetary policy will need to be maintained until the country can secure a safe and durable exit from the crisis. The private sector mouthpiece says the monetary authorities should increase the money supply in the economy at least over the period of the second wave so that credit can be extended to private businesses.
Inkosi Yamakosi Mbelwa of the fifth of the Ngoni of Mzimba has warned his subjects against tolerating local beer drinking gatherings, saying that is fueling the spread of coronavirus in Mzimba. The paramount chief said despite beer drinking being one of the Ngoni cultural pillars, people should refrain from meeting in such gatherings to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. Sam Kalimira reports.
Inkosi Yamakosi Mbelwa, the fifth, said chiefs should join the government in enforcing COVID-19 countermeasures by ensuring that people stop meeting for beer drinking, cultural dances, and community meetings that attract huge crowds. The Paramount said that is the reason he ordered that all cultural events such as Umteto should be suspended last year after observing that it attracts many people and puts many at risk of contracting coronavirus.
I think people just need to understand, because where this pandemic is now, it doesn't look at whether you're Ngoni or you're any other tribe. It is killing, and we are seeing bad results that are coming out. So everyone has to be responsible. My plea is to the chiefs to make sure that they take up their role and curb this malpractice so that we can protect ourselves from this pandemic.
The chief has also warned some parents who are welcoming their children from South Africa who have used uncharted routes, saying this can also fuel the spread of the pandemic, as such people do not use the normal entry points and thereafter do not get quarantined and tested. Meanwhile, Northern Region Police Deputy Public Relations Officer Moise Chabola said the police will enforce the COVID-19 laws just like any other laws, including in rural areas.
It's not only the duty of the Library Service to ensure that such are being followed, but as an individual, everyone has got that task to ensure that this virus does not continue making havoc amongst the residents, not only in the northern region, but Malawi as a whole.
As of Saturday, the country had registered 1,074 new cases, 112 recoveries, and 25 deaths.
Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital has called on people within its catchment area to seek medical treatment whenever they have COVID-19 symptoms. Hospital Director Samson Ndolo said, contrary to what people are saying that hospitals are killing people, others are recovering and being discharged daily. He also said the referral hospital is in the process of increasing space to accommodate as many patients as possible. Dr. Ndolo has, however, encouraged people to go to the hospital in good time and not to wait for things to get worse. He spoke to Jamison Jaoluka.
The truth of the matter is that it is true. We are receiving a lot of patients suffering from COVID-19. What is not true is to say that the majority of them are dying. In fact, the majority of the patients that make it to our treatment unit are recovering. The recovery rate is quite huge. The last 4 days, I remember on the 17th, we had 9 discharges and 2 people died in our COVID treatment unit. On the 18th, 10 people were discharged and 1 person died in the COVID treatment unit. On the 19th, 2 people were discharged and 1 died. And yesterday on the 20th, we discharged 7 people. And these are people who go home walking, and 2 people died. What have we seen recently? We have seen a number of people that are presenting quite late. So their oxygen levels are very low, such that it becomes impossible to reverse the situation. And most of these people who are passing on are dying before making it to the COVID treatment unit.
Operators of motorcycle taxi businesses in Mzuzu say the COVID-19 pandemic has affected their business. Under the umbrella of Mzuzu Motorcycle Taxi Union, the members cite the COVID-19 restrictions put in place by the government, which they say have had a negative bearing on their operations. Sam Kalimira reports.
Secretary for the union, Benson Mangani, said the demand for motorcycle taxi as a means of transportation has dwindled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mangani said government restrictions that markets should be closed by 5 o'clock p.m. and drinking joints by 8 o'clock p.m. has negatively affected their daily earnings, as most are now making 2,000 kwacha per day as compared to 15,000 kwacha which they used to realize before COVID-19 hit.
People have now resolved to walk since they knock off early from the market. They knock off around 5 p.m. and they are no longer boarding motorcycles to their destinations. This has greatly affected our business.
The members have also complained that the police confiscate motorcycles that are not registered, arguing they cannot afford to spend around 450,000 kwacha for a driving license and extra money to have their motorbikes registered. But in an interview, Police Regional Traffic Officer for the Northern Region, McDonald Jambagara, said the police will still be apprehending motorists who are not complying with the regulations.
We warn you that we are going to continue impounding all unregistered motorcycles. We are very serious on it. We are going to impound them.
Mzuzu City has over 400 motorcycle taxi operators.
A few days after President Lazarus Chakwera directed that schools be closed for 3 weeks to pave way for assessment of the severity of COVID-19 infections, Times has established that public universities are struggling to test for COVID-19 due to a lack of test kits, among other issues. At Mzuzu University, for instance, officials say they are struggling to secure officials from the Ministry of Health to assess on-campus students as they cite the shortage of test kits. Patience Lunda has filed this report read by Sam Kalimira.
In a memo dated January 20, 2021, further indicates that discussions are underway between the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health officials to explore how the assessment may be done where test kits are not available. Mzuzu University Registrar Yona Mungwira said the university has set aside strict measures to minimize the spread of the pandemic. At the Rongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, 20 test kits were procured from China, which the registrar of the university, Philip Gaonda, described as inadequate. Gaonda said the institution has over 5,000 students. However, only first and fourth year students are on campus and testing has already started. This far, 19 cases have been recorded at Rwanda since the emergence of the second wave, with 11 staff members, 3 students, and 5 staff dependents testing positive for the virus. On his part, the University of Malawi, the Polytechnic Registrar Elias Chizimba said the university started testing students on Thursday, and on the first day, 24 students were found positive for the virus out of at least 100 tests conducted. Chizimba said it is the wish of the university to be provided with test kits that will be handled by the institution's trained medical personnel to speed up the testing exercise, because the school has a huge population of students and members of staff. At the College of Medicine and Chancellor College, the tests are not being conducted as the institutions closed for end academic year holidays. College of Medicine Registrar Stuart Chirambo said they are planning to begin classes on February 1st this year through other methods of teaching and learning. On her part, Chanko Registrar Mary Wasiri said the university's academic year ended on January 14 and all students evacuated the campus before the declaration of the president. Before the closure, Chancellor College had recorded 35 positive cases, of which 14 were staff members, 18 students, and 3 other people.
We'll be back with more after the break.